Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Mic check. Mic check. Check, check, check.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good. Yep.
Okay, excellent. Ooh, it's that angle.
It is 6 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the South Weaver City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, June 9th. We're going to just jump right into it. So first agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's going to be led by Commissioner Boatwright.
Could you repeat after me? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Jumping right into it, we're going to get into public comments. Just a couple quick reminders is please be respectful of all the guidelines below, which are the individuals may speak for 3 minutes or less. Please remember to state your name and address and direct your comments to the entire commission. And please note that the Planning Commission will not respond during the public comment period. So I would like to make a motion. No, just public comments. We're open for public comments. And I guess there will be no public comment. So go ahead and move on to the next agenda item, which is to approve the consent agenda for PC 2022-05-12. Has the commission had a chance to review? Are there any questions, concerns, corrections?
No.
No.
That's what I saw.
No. Okay, I did have one that I noted, and it was that on page 4 of 41, under the paragraph number 5 for the South Weaver Gateway Architectural Review, it says built to suite, and that needs to be corrected to built to suit. And that was it. So can I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amendments that I brought up, the correction that I brought up?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda PC 2022-05-12 minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Motion carries.
And I'm abstaining.
Oh, it's abstained. Thank you.
Hey, can I, Kim,
Yes.
will you switch the camera so I can see the commission? Awesome, thanks.
You don't like looking at an empty podium?
Real nice.
Perfect. Okay, next agenda item is the public hearing action on the preliminary final plat, improvement plans, and rezone request for Belknap Estates, one lot plat, parcel number 130360101, approximately 0.628 acres, from residential low to residential moderate, located at approximately 7888 South, 2600 East by applicant Tiger Belknap. And do we want to have an introduction first, kind of with everything from staff, and then we'll open up the public hearing?
You bet.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. Members of the Planning Commission, we have, this is the first of, it's like the ring around the rosy of how many different items we could look at. And so this is a one lot subdivision. Our code allows us to process this as a preliminary final application as long as they submit all of the required documents. As notated on the checklist that you see before you, they have submitted all of the required documentation for both the preliminary and the final. Staff has done their review and have found it consistent with the zoning of RM. So with the rezone, the general plan has it designated as a residential moderate area. The current zoning is residential low. The applicants are requesting residential moderate just to accommodate a better building footprint within the area. It allows for about 10 more feet of buildable area based on the setbacks required in a residential low versus a residential moderate zone. So other than that, it's a pretty cut and dry single lot subdivision. It has all access to necessary utilities and access to right of way. And so we feel that it meets those requirements. And so it's as your decision tonight is to basically approve the preliminary improvement plans and recommend a rezone and the final plat to the city council at the same time.
Okay, do we want to give the developer a chance to go and say anything, or just open it up for public comment?
I'd open it for public.
Public comment first. Okay, then I'm going to ask for a motion to open the public hearing on the agenda item previously stated.
I motion to open the public hearing. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Jeremy?
Aye, sorry.
Commissioner Davis? Keep it Justin. Okay, we're open for public comment.
No, go ahead, you're not public comment. No. Okay, I'm here to sit. Oh, okay.
Paul Sturm, 2527 Deer Run Drive. My public comments tonight are, my first for the public hearing is the agenda item 4, which is the public hearing and action. I investigated this agenda item prior to the packet itself being available to determine why the developer is making this request. My assumption was that the developer wants to subdivide and increase the number of lots since it's called Belknap subdivision. I researched both South Weber City RL and RM zoning codes, and the results are attached. So I have an attachment to this. Please note that the number 10 page of the packet is missing. The numbers go from 9 of 41 to 11 of 41. It's not really missing, it's just a misnumbering. Number 3, packet page 8 of 41 under planning review of PL2 of the staff summary does not comply with the South Weber City Code for RM. Please reference the block below. Density, there shall be no more than 2.80 building lots per acre contained within the boundaries of each phase of every subdivision or planned unit development, except when previous phases of the same development have sufficiently low density that the average is still 2.80 building lots per acre or less. As cited in the attachment, even 0.628 acres equals only 1.785 lots. I would reference the first paragraph of the attachment. It goes through the math on this. And one thing to be pointed out is that the square foot minimum, 9,000 square foot minimum for a lot does not apply because it is superseded by the 2.80 maximum. Number 4, suggest that the applicant try another rezoning request for a zone that better matches their intent for the number of lots they are trying to achieve for their subdivision. The next question I have is how did the acreage suddenly go up from the Davis County property search number? This is the same thing that happens with the Lofts project. The acreage suddenly went up and increased the number of units allowed under the prior South Weber City Code C-0. At this rate, I guess the surface area of Davis County will continually increase. And I say, if I would direct your attention to the attachment and the fact that it has the actual code and the calculations on showing why there's only 1.7584 lots permitted at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Are there any other additional public comments on this item? Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion carried. All right. Let's take the, I guess at this point, I know we're going for planning commission discussion. But I wonder if it'd be appropriate to have the applicants come to the podium and maybe just give us a quick summary, what you're looking to do, maybe answer any questions, you know, give any information you'd like to share with the commission.
I don't know, I mean, I've never done this before on my own. So my name's Robin Belknap. I am Tyker's mother. I am the owner of the property.
Okay, please state the
Um,
address, please.
7841 South, 2600 East is my address. So this property has been in our family for a million years, and he wants to build. And so we've granted him that. He'll purchase the lot and he'll build his home. And then we do have a smaller parcel in between there and my mother's home. So my parents' home plus this are 2 acres. My parents' home sits on an acre and it's 2600 East, 7800 South is their address, which is just north of this parcel. Then there will be a smaller parcel in the middle there of 0.34. And then there's this parcel that we're talking about. I don't know what else to say. So,
Perfect.
I mean,
Thank
so it's a
you.
one lot. Our son will build there. It's just one lot. It's no more lots.
So one lot not being subdivided, future, just looking for a little more buildable area, from what I'm understanding.
Yes.
Okay, with the
Because of
the zoning change.
because of the lot,
Current zoning.
what do I want to say, how the lot is designed. Because it comes around the cul-de-sac, so it's pretty narrow. So for him to try to put any sort of buildable space in that narrow part is really hard.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing.
Do any of the commissioners have a direct question? Well, we've got rep there to answer anything? Nothing?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm gonna open it up to the commission for discussion. Start with Jeremy. Commissioner Davis, would you like to start off?
I don't have any questions. I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Boatright?
I'm good.
Commissioner Wilson?
Sorry, I just realized something. I think a general question, since we're doing a preliminary and final.
Mhm.
Do we have an idea of, I'm not sure that it really matters since it's on a cul-de-sac, but I'm not sure if I recall seeing how the site access was going to work on the site. The buildings. That's something typically we get in the
The access
final.
point for the driveway.
Yeah,
I mean, that typically isn't done in this because there's no site plan, but the access would just be off of that, the cul-de-sac road. So as long as it complies with the code, they can put it wherever on that road. Does that make sense?
it does. Yeah, it's just one of those where this is unique, given that we're doing preliminary and final, and I just
All in one.
making sure that we're tracking that we're getting everything.
Mhm.
And I trust that the staff has done that, so.
Yeah.
just- No, I think that's my only real question.
Any comments, Commissioner? I'm skipping me, but I'm coming back.
Not at this time.
Not the same. Okay, I did just have a quick question, and it was more because it is the preliminary and final, kind of like Commissioner Wilson had brought up.
Mhm.
Is a site plan where the building is going to be situated, anything like that required? Because.
No, in a residential zone like this, the only time a site plan is required is if it's a commercial, industrial, or a multifamily use.
Okay.
And that's when we would require a site plan. Otherwise, that's not required at
Okay.
this stage.
That was my only, because if it's just a single lot, I think that addresses the issues and concerns of it being subdivided, like future, like that's not gonna be possible.
No.
Based on, okay,
No, and the reason why they're doing it as a subdivision application is because in order for them to build on the lot, it needs to have a subdivision or need to be a lot of record. And so it was not a lot of record, so they needed to create a subdivision to be able to
so checking.
process the building
Okay.
permits and everything. Yeah, it is a technicality, especially on a one lot subdivision. It's like, okay, well,
And I like
we-
that it's a single family home, I love it, so kudos to your son for wanting to do that and build here and be a part of our community, so making it official, I guess. He's already been a part of it, now it's just official home ownership, I love that. Okay, well, then I will ask for a motion on agenda item number 4. If anyone wants to take it.
I'll make a motion to recommend public hearing and action for a preliminary and final plat, improvement plans and rezone request for Belknap Estates, one lot plat, parcel 130-360-101, approximately 0.628 acres from RL to RM, located at approximately 7888 South, 2600 East by applicant Tyker Belknap.
Do you have a second?
Just for clarification on that, we're approving the preliminary application and recommending approval of the rezone. Is that
Preliminary and final plat,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
recommend approval on the rezone.
I second that.
Okay,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, do I need to do a roll call? Okay, let's make it official. A roll call vote, please, starting with Commissioner Fett.
Aye.
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 All right, it carries. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, item number 5, public hearing and action on a rezone request of approximately 2.91 acres from commercial highway and agricultural to residential patio, located at approximately 7800 South, 2700 East, applicant Phil Holland. And before we open up the public hearing, I'm going to have staff give a little bit of background on this, and then we'll go to public comment.
Thank you. For the public's information, I did email the planning commission about this. In the packet, there was an error. I didn't transfer over an acreage amount. So in the packet, the public hearing information that has been published and noticed is all correct, the 2.91 acres. In the packet on the rezone information summary, I accidentally put the Belknap rezone amount and not this rezone amount. So the rezone amount is 2.91 acres. The applicant for this rezone request, Phil Holland, has submitted to see if the planning commission and the city council would favor a residential patio use in this area. Right now, there's a few different zones because the parcel is larger. Commercial highway, agriculture, and residential low are the zones that are the current zoning, and then the applicant's requesting residential patio. The general plan land use classification is commercial highway, but there is a consideration cloud bubble, whatever you want to call it, for residential patio. So this is something that is just under consideration for the planning commission and the city council to determine if this is a use that they want to pursue on this property. So it does comply with the general plan in that aspect, but it does lend itself to being more open for consideration there. The applicant has supplied a potential site plan, but it's really important to note that this rezone request is coming in separate from a development itself. And so the site plan is not being approved for this rezone request. It's just a rezone request with that as an exhibit to show potential land use. So right now, the planning commission is considering what uses would be allowed under the residential patio zone. And if they were to rezone that property to a residential patio, then they are granting a blanket approval for any uses that would be allowed in a residential patio, which for reference is single family homes. It's pretty narrow on there. The commercial highway has a larger amount of allowed uses, but the applicant wants to pursue a residential patio use. And with that, I'll turn the time over back to you.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm going to ask for a motion to open up the public hearing on the previously mentioned agenda item number 5.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Can I
I
get a second?
second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, it is now open for public comment. Should anyone like to take it up? In fact, actually, let's have the applicant, if you'd like to come up. I'm looking over here because I know it's one of you. State your name and address for the council or commission.
My name is Phil Holland. I'm the applicant, 1082 West Dutch Lane. I'm glad to be here. It has been a good, lengthy effort to stand in front of you today. Let me kind of walk through that a little bit. So I bought the property about 2 years ago when, right about the time Morty's was seeking their approval and getting a rezone. There was a group prior to me that was trying to get townhomes in this area. And they were working pretty hard at getting that. I think that got denied at the time. And this concept of a patio home in this location and area started to come out of the woodwork. And for good reason. I think that this is a great transitional area where it's not quite near that intersection that's right there by Maverick. It's closer to residential. I've got residential neighbors that are right there, and some of the commercial uses within the commercial highway zone. You know, I mean, some of the uses that I could put there probably wouldn't be consistent with what my neighbors are doing. And I think originally, and staff that was here at the time could probably speak better to this than me. But originally, the reason for that was this concept of we do commercial next to Maverick, and as we move closer to that residential, we have an opportunity to do a patio home use. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. As you know, and you've heard plenty of times, we've been in a housing crisis for quite a while. The University of Utah started doing their studies about 3 years ago, but we've been in this housing crisis for a lot longer than that. And it's not just an inventory issue, it's a housing type issue, which compounds our problem here in the Wasatch Front. And the unique thing about the Wasatch Front is we have a young population and we have an older population. Both of those things are occurring at the same time. This patio home use, and do you guys have in front of you the site plan so you know what potentially this could be? 11 single family lots. And a patio home lot, I've done many of those throughout the Wasatch Front, kind of fits, the sweet spot for that is a 3,000 to 6,000 square foot lot, which is smaller. These lots that would come here in South Weber, the way the ordinance is written, is the frontage is actually quite large. And so if you've ever in your mind seen a Davis or Weber County patio home with a third car garage, this is likely the product type that would go here. And so this is somebody who is either a move-up buyer or somebody who may or may not be an empty nester and is thinking, I want less yard. I had a half acre. I don't want to keep mowing. And there's a resounding demand for this throughout our community. So I think for all of us, it's a win-win. The City Council and Planning Commission a couple of years ago created this bubble diagram for us to have that option in consideration. And as the landowner, I am saying and requesting and applying that we change this and rezone it to, I think it's a win-win for everybody. Both the neighbors around me, you don't have that commercial creep into their own neighborhoods, as well as the use itself is in high demand at this time. Let me know if you have any questions. Like I said, I'm glad I'm sitting in front of you and we're having this opportunity. One other item is we started to apply about 1.5 years ago, and you've got a great staff, by the way. Brandon and I have worked on quite a few different things throughout the cities together. Staff noticed that there wasn't a private right-of-way within the city, which has since changed. And our application originally was kind of the spearhead that happened. So we've been working on this a long time, and all of a sudden we're here. So I can't tell you how excited I am about that. But staff has worked really hard over the last few years to get that completed, and we're looking forward to move forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Phil. Appreciate
Thank you very
the
much.
information. So, okay, I'm going to, at this point, open up for public comments. Actually, we're going to We already did that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm just gonna turn the podium over to anyone from the public that would like to give some comments.
Paul Sturm, 2527 Deer Run Drive. Agenda item 5, which is the public hearing action on the rezone request with the applicant Bill Holland. My first question was why the staff summary sheet for both Belknap Estates and Manor Village subdivision shows the same area. Trevor already answered that. My next concern is the fact that this property is directly adjacent to Morty's Car Wash. The city will need to address several issues that were discussed and agreed upon during the car wash approval process, particularly noise, lighting, and hours of operation. South Weaver City appears to be reneging on the agreement with Scott Mortensen concerning potential hours of operations that would be addressed later, depending upon if any complaints are received. This cannot happen with the details in the proposed noise ordinance pending consideration at the 14 June 22 City Council meeting and the proposed patio homes proximity to the car wash with its obvious noise, lighting, and hours of operation issues that were previously approved by South Weaver. Also, according to the drawing provided on page 16 of 41, it appears that this development possibly does not comply with paragraph C, lot width in the RP zone. The minimum lot width is 65 feet in the RP zone as shown below in paragraph C. According to the drawing provided, it is possible that lot 1 with either 63.85 or 61.9 feet, not in compliance. Lot 5, which varies between about 60 feet and 77 feet, may or may not, and others may or may not comply. The lots themselves do comply with both paragraphs A, density, 4 times 2.90 equals 11.6 lots, and 11 are proposed. And paragraph B, lot area, 6,000 square feet minimum in the RP zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any other public comments?
Of course there is. You're not permitted to. I'm permitted, I'm a citizen of this fine town.
Well, I'm pretty sure someone wants to kick me out. Rob Osborne, 2317 View Drive, South Weaver. I'd ask the commission to deny this rezone request. 2 reasons. Don't give up our commercial spot. We fought like heck to keep commercial in this city, and we're just going to give it up to a residential. We have way more commercial problems than we do trying to fill residential space. I appreciate Mr. Holland's comments that in Utah we need more housing. That's true, but this city needs commercial. I don't know how that cloud worked out. That's not how it was talked about when we talked about it in the general plan. The general plan, when we talked about that particular parcel of land, was it would be residential on 7800 South, probably 3 lots, and then the rest of that would be commercial to create the buffer. And also when we did Morty's Car Wash, when we did that, it was agreed that some of that space on the south side of Morty's would also be parking area for the new development there. So there'd be more room for cars to come in and out of the car wash. So I just beg you, let's not give up more of our commercial spot. We had a great plan that was coming in when we were looking at it at the time. It was with roll-up doors and a nice frontage for businesses. And there's lots of other opportunities, as you know, that is getting up the road, but the frontage, we just need to keep our commercial. Please don't give that up. So I would ask that you recommend to the city council to deny the rezone request. and come back with something else that will work with a buffer on 7,800. The other thing I was going to say is, when do we ever do rezone requests and we don't have a development agreement? We have never done that. We've never carte blanche that. We've never said, go ahead, do whatever. We've always had a development agreement. So I would ask the city staff, particularly, Kim knows, Kim was there. Trevor, please listen to those tapes of the general plan meetings, because that will come out exactly what we wanted, and this is not what we wanted. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any additional public comment? I'm gonna ask for a motion to close.
Just real quick, just a note that we wanted to acknowledge that we did receive some additional public comments via email from Mr. Jeff Eddings at 2645 East and 7800 South, and also Mr. Kevin Polson at 2590 East and 7800 South. And those are part of the record, so that anybody can go and view their comments.
And I just want to ask the commission really quick, did everybody get a chance to read those prior to coming in? So you're
Yes.
familiar with their sentiments?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis? I see a hand
Yes.
up. Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna ask for a motion to close public hearing.
I'll move that we close the public hearing.
No, we haven't. Motion.
Yeah, no, when we have a
continue the
motion, can we continue the motion to allow for,
You have to continue with if there's a motion, there needs to be.
I did. I did.
oh, right,
Sorry, you can't see my mouth.
can we close it and I reopen it?
Can
You have to
Commissioner
vote on
Boatright rescind the motion?
Yeah. Can I rescind it? I rescind the motion.
Sorry. Okay, you absolutely may speak.
Yeah, just real brief, my name's Rob Edwards, 1579 South Weber Drive. I just felt like I needed to speak for maybe some of the residential people that live next to the proposed rezone. For them, I don't see the benefit of having commercial, as he stated, at their door. Have they had any comment about this, some of the neighbors close by this proposed project?
Two. Yep.
Okay. Okay, all right. I heard that, you know, it just seemed like, you know, we didn't want to give up any commercial space here in South Weber. We have a commercial lot that we've had for over 4 years now. We tried to bring in grocery store, small retail, and we had no success for over that period of time to get commercial here in the center of town. So all I wanted to just bring up was perhaps maybe those residents needed to comment on some of that and what they would prefer to have on their lot lines versus, you know, commercial versus residential. That's all. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Oh, Rob, I was for you now.
Thank you.
You just burned your bridge.
Well, and I think this might be appropriate, maybe if Commissioner Walton feels like he can take it on. We're gonna summarize the 2 emails that were sent in.
Yeah.
Because I do think it might help everybody to kind of hear what was stated by those residents that do live directly across from this proposed area, so.
All right, I don't think I can do it justice if I'm just gonna summarize it. So I'll go ahead and read one and Commissioner Boatright will read the other.
Okay, that works.
All right, so this is from Mr. Jeff Eddings, again at 2645 East and 7800 South. And he states, in regards to rezone, a request on this agenda item by Mr. Phil Holland. He states that I bought my residence in South Weber particularly because I liked that there wasn't too much around it. No business to contend with, horses down the way, and all the other charms that come with a small town. I guess I was a fool to think that that could last, or that others might share my same values. So with that on my mind, I guess I am quite the predicament on how I feel about the housing development being proposed across the street from me. After all, it's not bad enough that I have to deal with the constant blinking red and green Maverick sign all night long, or the obnoxious bay lights coming from Morty's car wash at night, or better yet, the lofts that are being slapped up right behind and next to me. How can one more thing hurt? I could go on and on about how it's probably not a good idea to build more houses with the current water situation and how more houses will test the limits of our city's infrastructure, i.e. sewer capacity, culinary water, street maintenance, etc., or how the increased traffic will impair the already congested area, etc., etc. It states that this new development, consisting of about 11 patio homes, will serve as a buffer between the commercial and the established low density to the south. You know what makes it for a good buffer, an empty field. Explain to me how building a new residential area between the established residential area and the established commercial is a buffer. I mean, where is this buffer between the new residential and the commercial? I guess those people are just out of luck and they get what they get. Don't know why someone, nice touch with the entrance and exit of the proposed development dumping out on 7800 South right in front of our homes. Can't wait for the headlights in the windows. It isn't congested there, it isn't congested there enough already in the mornings and evenings as everyone and their brother use it as a shortcut instead of utilizing Deer Run. Not to mention the kids that catch the bus there and their parents and their vehicles dropping off and picking up. Potential off traffic probably won't impact the general area either. What could go wrong? Personally, what I think would be good in that field, storage units, no water usage, minimal traffic, nothing for South Weaver to maintain, and raised commercial tax revenue. Maybe even tall block walls, so I don't even have to look at those car wash lights at night. A win-win situation for everyone. There is still that pesky Maverick sign though. I do not know. Just go ahead and approve whatever you want to go into the space. After all, it isn't going to matter what I or the other residents have to say. Signed, Jeffrey and Stacy Eddings.
And this one is from Mr. Kevin Polson at 2590 East, 7800 South. Hello. In regards to the rezone request submitted by Mr. Holland, I have a few thoughts I wanted to express. The first being, it is difficult to take city authorities seriously on extreme drought conditions and the necessary restrictions, while they're also considering and approving every rezone request to higher density housing. I'm in no way trying to slam the door closed on other people wanting to live in our great city, but I am wondering at what point do we realize that we have limited natural resources? Wouldn't it be prudent to consider halting any high-density rezone requests until we're out of the drought at the very least? When my wife and I moved back to South Weber, we bought a 100-year-old existing home and have worked hard to improve its condition so our children could have a nice yard to play in and a great community to be raised in. Now we're being told that we can't keep our grass green by the same people who continually approve higher and higher density rezones for more families to pack in and take showers, flush toilets, wash dishes, and do laundry. Aside from the drought, why is it that the citizens of South Weber are asked to contribute thoughts on the general plan, which takes quite some time for everyone to get through, for the city to then toss it out the window months later and do whatever they want? The citizens have spoken, I don't know how many times, and yet we're still sent notices about changes to land that we've already expressed opinions on. I know I don't own the land, so I have very limited, if any, say in what happens with it. I just ask that our time isn't wasted with requests to comment on a general plan that's going to be ignored either way. I understand that everyone wants in on the high-density gravy train money. It's just a shame that so few landowners have any sort of respect for or love for what South Weber has always been. I am an implant, and yet it feels like I and so many others are the ones fighting to keep South Weber a great place for our kids. It's a shame that those who grew up here and enjoyed the great things about South Weber no longer seem to care about preserving it. My dream would be that we approve single-family housing, low-density zones that naturally foster a community of people who put roots down and want to build a life with us in this great city. If every vacant lot is going to end up as high density anyway, let's just approve them all now and get it over with, because that's the path we're on anyway, and it saves everyone's time.
Thank you, Commissioners, for reading that. I hope that kind of helps understand. If I have any additional public comment.
My name is Wade Page. I live at 2555 East, 7800 South. So I live just, west of there, 4 homes probably. And I'm fairly new there. I've been there 2 years. And I came to this meeting just to kind of find out exactly what the plan was. I came in with the intent of like, I really don't want to see any high-rise apartments. I don't really want to see some commercial stuff. After I saw the plan that Phil had, I'm kind of like, okay, that's probably not a bad idea, really. It's better than a patch full of weeds. It'd be a little more pleasant to see. Yes, it'll bring in more traffic. That's inevitable. But I think also, it'd probably be better use than maybe commercial. Commercial would probably bring in a whole different set of traffic and different issues with that. And so I would be kind of in favor of just single family homes there personally.
Very much. Anyone else?
Michael Grant, 2622 Deer Run Drive. I was not planning on saying anything. Back when the lofts were being developed, some of the offices for commercial use proposed were things like a dentist's office, an accountant's office, maybe an attorney. So those are quiet offices. They are 8 to 5 or 8 to 4. They don't use very much water, and there's no traffic at nighttime. So the residential area people would not be bothered. So that might be a good use for that patch of land, the cloud. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else? Final call.
I was just about to make a motion.
I appreciate the letters, everything. This property 100% will be developed into something. And so hopefully, the community is saying, okay, well, what's the use here? I own the land. I am a commercial developer. This site is not, I call it a B in terms of its commercial location. There is property on South Weber Drive that has been for sale for 10 years. Adding more commercial into this area, even the piece across the street I looked at to buy 8 years ago, it's still for sale. And so just by saying, I appreciate everybody's comments, but these are some things I look at as a landowner. What's feasible? And yeah, we'd rather just keep it open, but I will develop this property, and I have commercial uses, and I can tell you that in a highway commercial zone here in South Weber, those residents will also be in this room saying, no, do not stick a big sign in my yard. And 2 people mentioned that. Well, that's exactly what this parcel is. It's zoned for that today. So I think with good reason, a couple of years ago, there was this brown bubble around it. Just wanted to make comment of that. Appreciate everything that people said. I've been in their shoes before. As a landowner, I will develop this into something. And I just have to ask myself that question is, what does it need to be? And I have asked that. And my thought is single family homes. It's not high density. It's not even medium density by state definition standards. This is low density patio homes, lower maintenance, smaller yards, irrigation problem. Yeah, that's why I'm here applying for this. Thank you very much for letting me come up one more time.
If I come up one more time, since we're allowing that, I want to make sure I'm clear.
I will
On
allow
70, thank you. On 7,800, it should be buffer homes. There should not be commercial all the way to 7,800. But we are all getting a property tax increase or a tax increase with our sewer drain water because we don't have enough commercial in this city. I'm really glad Mr. Holland is a commercial developer because there's things that can come to this city in that spot and they would love it. And the spot across the street, I'm very familiar with that. It's very expensive. That's why it hasn't sold in 25 years. They want too much, net. And so that's a simple math. So thank you. Thank you for allowing.
You're very welcome.
me to speak in.
Anyone else? Final call. All right, then I'm gonna ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
I move we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All right, so we're gonna open this up to
Oh, gotta
Commissioner.
vote.
Oh, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, now I'll open up to Commissioner discussion. Who wants to start? There's lots.
There is.
Got it. Taylor wants to go first.
I feel like I'm always going
Taylor
first.
wants, no, it's usually me. Since I'm directing the meeting. I don't
Hey,
have to go
Taylor,
first.
I'll save you, I'll jump into it first.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So, I'm gonna be completely honest, I'm conflicted on this one. I've seen this property, with other proposals. I think that there's been valid points made, for and against, approving this or not approving this. There has been other proposals for townhomes here, taller, higher density townhomes. In relation to that, I feel like what has been presented is something that's been thought through very carefully. I think very well, I think well positioned. However, there has been a very valid point about our town not having enough commercial or wanting more commercial. Maybe it's a better way to say it. And so, you know, I think to myself, if we deny this and we move forward with saying this will develop in commercial eventually, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years from now, you know, is that a position that we want to take? So anyway, I just wanted to articulate kind of the conflict that I'm you know, wrestling with inside, and see if you guys have similar feelings or more to add to that.
So to carry on with that thought, I think I'm in the same boat. Because ultimately, on our general plan, we have it as a residential use, patio use, and a commercial use. So it's hard to make a decision on what is the intended use of that property per the general plan and make a decision. And we saw value in it as obviously a commercial zone, and we're also saying that it has value with patio homes on it as well. So we put ourselves in kind of a really tough position on making a decision on this particular parcel. So I share that same sentiment.
On this item, I'll just add this discussion. I actually went back and found the original discussion. It was back in Thursday, February 13th of 2020. Our favorite year is how long, and that was when the last rezone came through for the light industrial and then the 14 townhomes. And I listened to that entire meeting. I listened to the discussion. I listened to the back and forth. And I see why on here it's basically being designated. It now makes sense why the squiggly cloud, that's the R7 component that everybody was pushing for, but it also still allows for the commercial highway. And what is going to be the best use of this property? I am in the same, I don't know if this is the right answer. I do know I have concerns with the residential being right there by the exit to Marty's Car Wash. That is also being used as an entrance, by the way. And I can say this because I'm trying to support local businesses. I've been down there. I've had my daughter go down there. I've sent my husband down there. And coming out of it's right there, and there's not a ton of space. And when I imagine there being a house in somebody's backyard and somebody, you know, that has young children or somebody that's older, you know, living there, and just, again, we're having, one question I have we had any complaints that have been filed with the city regarding the noise, regarding the vacuums, the lighting, like any of that
We've
currently being?
We've received a few complaints, mainly about the lighting
Okay.
for Morty's. Chris Tremea has been aware of that and is out. He'll be out monitoring that for the next few days. He did do a noise test after it is opened. He did the test prior to measure ambient noise, and then after the opening, the noise test came back. The highest reading was 72 decibels, which still complies within that. So the noise area, we haven't really had noise complaints that I've known of, and mostly it's lights and maybe a little bit of the traffic that it's generated. So.
So I also had questions about the noise and lights. I mean, definitely the property, the homes as proposed on the map, and I know that is not, that's just conceptual, but I do wonder just what kind of living environment they're gonna have, being that close to a car wash. I know when we contemplated putting the car wash there, it seemed like eventually there would be some kind of a buffer between the car wash and a residential use, and that concept seemingly is gone now. So that is a concern of mine. I know a lot of residents in their comments address the water use discussion, especially in a drought year. I think for the most part, understand that density brings some efficiency with water use. These are smaller lots, so they're not going to be your typical residential lot that will be water intensive on plants and landscapes. So I just wanted to address that with my comment here. And then, let's see, that was mainly my biggest issues. Certainly understand that this was one of those areas that we designated as a commercial use. We don't have very many. And hate to see an opportunity to go where we can't develop some kind of commercial use out of this. But again, over and over, we hear from developers when they come in to propose either commercial use or residential use, that we simply don't have enough rooftops or doorknobs or what have you to drive a commercial development of any substance. So again, those are my general comments. I'm certainly uncertain on how to decide on this, based upon the fact that we have it kind of proposed in the general plan both ways.
Okay, I'm just going to take a moment and just excuse Commissioner Mike Cotton for a quick second. He had a family emergency he needs to go attend to, so just making note of that on the record. I'm hoping that's appropriate to do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I think I covered all my items.
So I'm kind of like with everybody else. I'm a little torn on this. I understand the need for commercial, and I honestly don't remember how that bubble got on there on the general plan.
Do
There's
you want
a
the meeting notes?
no. I don't want to relive that. But we keep saying we want commercial, but not a lot's coming, or it's always packaged with high density. I really liked the proposal that I think was at that meeting that had the light commercial. That was something very similar to what I saw in Riverdale when I lived there. I still like that. I think that would work well here. But as a resident of the city, I would love to see more commercial because I'm tired of my taxes being raised. If I lived in this neighborhood, I wouldn't want to see a commercial because of all the issues that we've heard about. So I'm torn as well. I wish we could take part of what we heard and part of this and put it together, but I'm not a developer. I'm not going to try to come up with something like that, but I am torn on this as well.
I had a couple other things, and I think part of it adds into the commercial component is we want it, but we want viable commercial. We want commercial that's going to be successful. We don't want commercial that's just going to sit empty, that's not going to be utilized, because that does us no good as a city. I don't think it gives anybody the tax breaks that we're looking for. As for the proposal as it's presented, and I do appreciate the comments about the minimum lot width, that's directly to our code right now. I know this isn't an official plat, but that is an area, there's 4 lots in there right now that don't meet the 65-foot width.
So when you're reviewing that, just as FYI, those that have angles or curvatures, it's measuring the line length and not the entire width. So if you look at lot 1,
Yep.
that the line length is 63.85 feet, but it's not measuring the diagonal line there. However, this site plan doesn't have bearing on the approval, and so therefore it's a concept and would need to fit code before any application can come forward if this moves forward.
Because that leads right into the other thing is right now with this being zoned, well, it's commercial highway, they're asking for a residential zone. Morty's Car Wash is commercial highway. I believe that requires that buffer yard for it's the 20-foot easement with the 6-foot masonry wall plus 20-foot to give a little bit more space, correct?
It would require it from the commercial use and not from the residential use.
Yeah, I have a problem with
So-
that because the commercial's already existing at this point.
Correct.
And they have no space because
So-
that's their driveway. So on that alone,
So I do have one other comment that's not related to this, but it reminded me of something. I think when we approved the conditional use permit of Morty's Car Wash, there was a provision in there that we reviewed it like in a year after they opened. So just wanted to bring that up as a
It seemed like it
reminder.
was less than a year. Just I had it 6 months in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the same comment I was reserving for you.
Yeah, the conditional use permit required some of those things and those are being reviewed. So
Certainly.
it's, yeah,
Okay.
as far as I understand, yeah, that's why they're measuring the noise and all of that because they had to do that right before so that you know what the ambient noise level was, to see what the increase was. So yes, those are still being monitored consistent with the conditional use permit.
So, but Commissioner Davis, I don't think you've said
we have
anything.
not
We've,
heard from Commissioner Davis yet.
Yeah, so thanks for going first because I really was curious what you guys' thoughts were on this one. I think like you, I am too a little conflicted. Maybe not as conflicted as some of you, but my concern isn't that if the patio homes would be good. I actually like that idea. I think that concept fits well with our demographic, to be honest, and gives a different option. I have concerns about water though, which has been brought up. So patio homes, you know, obviously save secondary water, but doesn't save any culinary water. So that is a concern. The other question I had was around tax revenues, because that is something that's always kind of brought up for discussion. And I have no idea how much a commercial site like this could bring in from tax revenue perspective, but from a home perspective, I imagine that's pretty, or we could probably calculate that pretty easily as far as property taxes go and how much of that comes to the city. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate assumption?
Yes and no. We can come up with some rough figures of what it would approximately be, but until we know exact home values and property values, it's a little bit
Sure.
difficult, but we can get a ballpark.
Yeah, I was just curious there because I think we can calculate that would be, you know, whatever thousands of dollars times 10 or 11, and you know some of that goes elsewhere, but most of that comes to the city. So I don't know how that compares to if you had like a law firm sitting there and they win one case a year or whatever, you know, and then that gives us $5,000 in tax revenue or something. I don't know what the variances are there, but the commonality that I've heard ever since I've been on the planning commission is that it is almost impossible to get commercial to come to our city. So either all the people who have tried are not really that good at it, or our city just is not a desirable place for commercial to come for one reason or another. So I think that definitely has to be a consideration. While I agree that commercial revenue is needed, and I think we have to be really intelligent about how we use our space. Totally agree with that. However, if we're stuck in a spot where it's just not a viable option because nobody can convince a commercial organization or small businesses or something to come to our city to provide that tax revenue, then I think that's where a lot of our challenges reside. So I too don't want it to just sit there as an empty lot, waiting for some magical unicorn commercial entity to come in and say, yeah, I'm going to put my small business there. And to address the comments of the residents, while I can fully appreciate their concerns, I mean, unfortunately, if you want to control what's near you, you have to buy the land that's near you. Like, it's harsh to hear, but that's the truth, right? So if I had an empty lot behind me and I didn't want a house to be built behind me, I'd have to purchase that lot in order to ensure that nobody does something in that lot that I didn't necessarily agree with. So again, while I can appreciate and I empathize with people in the neighborhood. I think everyone just needs to realize that every landowner has the right to use that land for the purposes of that the city designates. And for this particular lot, it's kind of unique. It could go commercial or it could go patio. And if the general plan allows that, I lean towards, well, if the general plan allows that, then I think we have to approve it because that's within the general, that's what it says in the general plan. If the general plan specifically said, well, it can be patio, but only on 7800 South, then I think that's the recommendation that we could put forward. But my understanding is that that's not how the general plan currently reads. I think what we could do, in my opinion, is I think we could approve it with the stipulation that the city council consider commercial viability in that space. And if they feel like commercial viability is high, then maybe we recommend that they consider working with the landowner to explore commercial viability for at least a portion of that space. And then maybe we do single family homes on 7800 South, like was been mentioned before. But as a commission, I don't feel like we can insert a lot of our opinions here. I think if the general plan says that this can be allowed, I feel like it's our responsibility to follow that general plan.
And here's where, Jeremy, are you finished? I don't want to interrupt.
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here's what I think is hard is because we do have two very different options being proposed. And the more I'm looking at this and looking at the frontage and kind of what's being proposed for the rezone, as a resident, you know, and thinking of future residents coming in, living in our city, we've got the majority of the what's being proposed that would be fronting commercial on two sides. I don't see how that's attractive. I don't see how that's keeping with the general feel for the city, for what we have, you know, and our citizens have expressed, you know, a hope for. It's hard because this is a transitional area that obviously is going from our most viable commercial area into a residential zone. So what is the right answer here? Just to speak to the plan as it's being presented, I don't like how most of the open space is on the west end of the development where it doesn't really give any kind of benefit, I think, to the community. I understand that. And Brandon, you might be able to speak to that little section.
So just real quick, we're not looking at the development. This is just a rezone.
Oh, I know, it's a rezone, but it's with this as a
Well, he can come back with a completely different plan.
plan.
Yeah,
But
so I
is
just-
patio homes, is allowing what is permitted in residential patio the best fit for this space?
Yeah, that's the decision tonight. The
That's
recommendation
wondering.
that you're making is not whether this site plan, that is a sketch site plan, is the right fit, but whether or not the use of a patio home zone is the right fit for the area. That's the consideration tonight.
Because that's what's hard, because right now, and this is just referencing the memos, right here, the zoning, current zoning is agricultural, residential, low, moderate, and R7, yet on our projected land use, it's a mix of residential and commercial highway, so.
So to Commissioner Davis's point, the fact remains that this was a use designated in our general plan that was acceptable as a patio home use. So, I mean, in that aspect, this is scratching the itch. They're addressing what the residents wanted in the general plan for the city. And so I tend to agree with Commissioner Davis that we really can't interject too much of our feelings on whether
Oh, yeah.
commercial or not. Like, we have a proposal.
Quick
for a
question.
rezone.
What is the patio home density,
4 units an acre.
4 units an acre, versus if we went low, moderate? Isn't that 2 point?
Yeah, well, low moderate is. No, you're just saying numbers that are not exactly
I
right.
know, I'm
So
like,
hold
hold on. 2.8,
No, low moderate.
low, moderate.
That's the difference there. So,
So low, moderate is 2.8,
no, low moderate is not 2.8. Give me 1 minute.
because I thought residential low was 2.8.
No, residential low is 1.85. Give me 1 moment.
Low moderate is 1.85.
Oh, there we go.
Low,
There you go.
moderate,
And low is 1.4.
1.85. And sorry, residential low is what?
1 point. like a game show sometimes. Lower, it's like Price is Right. Let's see, 1.45. I do want to note that in regards to submitting a rezone request without a development, that's allowed for anybody to do, to request a rezone for their property without a specific use in mind. And so that's something that's allowed in our code, and if it's requested by someone, we have to honor that request and process the application. So.
You said something at the beginning of our conversation that kind of caught my attention, that if this rezone was approved, it would provide a carte blanche approval for, and I kind of missed the rest of that.
So by grant, because the development's not included, right? You're providing just a blanket approval for the residential patio zone.
Okay.
And so by going with that zone, if the use complies, then we would be required to process the application.
That's what
I have a question.
Mhm.
Why are we not having or requesting a development agreement with the rezone?
Well,
Why is that going
a
on?
development agreement is different from a development. So the developer just requested prior to going into, because there's that cloud area around it with some question of what is supposed to be, what is the zone that's going to be granted by the city council. They wanted to do the application prior to finishing a development.
So is it
application.
appropriate to approve the rezone, but with the request for a development agreement to be in place, created to, because I'm just at this point, how do we protect the city at this point? Because we've had conversations before where, hey, intended use is great. We know where that turns into. So I don't want to go down that road.
We would have to talk to Jamie specifically on making a request for a development agreement with a rezone. We can do that, but we need to typically be specific as to why we want the development agreement in place. Without a development attached to a rezone request, it's kind of hard to do that because we're just looking at the rezone. So if that's just kind of how that
I would put that on the shoulders of the city council, Commissioner Losey. I think they can dictate if they want a development agreement attached to it before they approve it anyway. So I think that's something that falls more on them than us. If I'm out of line, correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, but that feels like that would be better handled at the city council.
No, yet the city council as a legislative approval body, this is a legislative action. The land use rezone request is a legislative action by the city council. So they do have some of that purview. The planning commission is a recommending body. The advisory bodies to the city council can make their recommendation on whether to approve or deny. They can add that they would recommend a development agreement with it. But again, we just want to make sure with our legal counsel that we have all of our bases covered on making that requirement upon approval before the city council does that.
I have a question, and it's just because I'm going back, and it looks like the previous rezone request to get to, I think at the time it was R7, it was tabled. And I was not on the commission at that time when that took place. I'm just curious the reasons why, if.
February?
Yep. If you guys remember. Yeah. Because I've got the, like I said, I've got the meeting minute notes reading through it, and at the time, it looks like it was because we were going through the general plan revision. We were updating it, we were making changes, you know, this area of land was under discussion. And obviously, we can see now the general plan was updated. It is now it's like, it could be anything at this point, commercial highway or residential. Just what's the allowable density? What do we want to allow? Is commercial patio the best density to allow? Is a lower density going to fit in better? I think I go back to viable commercial. I don't want to have commercial front that just sits there. And from what I remember, and again, I was a citizen at the time, not on the planning commission, Wasn't the car wash space adjusted and more space was given to the car wash, which means it took away from what was being proposed for the light industrial and the townhomes? Does anybody recall that?
I think there was, the line was adjusted slightly to make sure there was enough room for the car wash.
But it was a slight adjustment, like.
Yeah, it was
Nothing
minor
major.
from the original proposal.
With your motion tonight, I want to be specific, it is to the RP request. You can't request any lower density. You can't say we would approve it at RL or RLM. That's not the request. It's either recommend approval or denial of the RP
Of the
rezone.
residential patio.
So I'm having a tough time pulling up our city code, just so I can share this, but correct me if I'm wrong in this. If the developer were to sell this property after getting it rezoned, is there a reversionary portion of our code that brings it back? So I
No.
think that was one of the concerns, that lessons learned, not concerns. Lessons
So
learned.
when there's a development attached with it, we have in the past applied a reverter clause that if a particular development does not continue through, then the land does revert back to the previous zone. With this being a rezone request without a development agreement, that's something we can't require on the rezone. It's not contingent on a development.
Can I ask a question? I'm just curious if in the residential patio zone, are there uses in that zone that concern you? Like,
So just speaking for me, nothing within that use concerns me. It's just the lost opportunity for commercial.
right. So I know there's concern that in the past you rezone a property and then some use comes back that is not desirable. And it feels like maybe there's some of that concern here tonight. So I was just curious if there's uses in the RP zone that are concerning to you.
And I think it's important to remember in tonight's recommendation is it's a non-binding recommendation for the city council. So you're not requiring the city council to follow your recommendation. It's a recommendation from the planning commission as the advisory body. And the city council then has the legislative authority to decide for themselves with the advice of the planning commission, legal counsel, and staff and their own judgment to make their decision that way. So just a reminder that it's not
So
a
you're-
binding decision.
You're telling us our vote doesn't matter, is what you're saying.
It matters in the fact that you're an advisory
Oh, I
body.
know.
It does matter.
I know, I'm just had to throw it out there. So,
I'm glad you said it.
so
I only had one other small thing, and it was just, I noticed in the memos, it says 2.91, and I know when I looked it up on the Davis County, it showed up as 2.9. Do we know exactly what acreage rules? Okay, I was just curious, because I saw that discrepancy, granted it's 0.01, but yeah,
It allows for a little flexibility.
a little,
there. Before after the city council, whatever their decision is, if they chose to approve it, I mean, it's gonna be based on, the description, the size, the whole nine yards in the survey.
okay,
It's approximate.
Right, and keep in mind that there's some property along 7800 that would be going to the right of way of the road, so
would that road be widened at all?
yes,
Okay,
they would be required to build curb gutter and sidewalk on that side of the road.
where it doesn't currently exist.
Correct.
Would that include the section? I mean, again, I know this is not a development plan, but since we're talking improvements to curb gutter and all that, so it would
Right.
just be that little section that's 5 feet.
The one little piece that comes around the existing home,
Yep.
yes, they would be required to do that piece as well. So it would make sense for the city to participate and just pay for the curb and gutter to go across the existing home. It wouldn't have to, but it would make sense to do that at the time. That home obviously is not part of the development, so.
Yes. All right. Any other points, items, comments from the commission? Nope, nope. Okay, I'm gonna ask for a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve. Let me make sure I get this right. The rezone request. Sorry? Recommend approval on the rezone request from commercial highway and agricultural to residential patio for the address under the application. This is just based upon the fact that it is in compliance with our general plan. And that is the vision of the residents as we went through that general plan process.
I'll second.
All right, I'm gonna ask for a vote. Starting with Commissioner Boatright.
Oh, come on.
Sorry. McFadden left. Blame him.
No. No.
No. Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
I'm a no. And with Commissioner McFadden, oh yeah, Commissioner Walton made the motion, so he's an aye. And motion fails. So, or tied. So what does that mean? The recommendation goes to city council knowing that was a split vote? Okay. Okay. All right. Check that agenda item off. We're gonna move on to the next one. Move on to agenda item number 6, action on final plat for Peterson Farms PUD, 25 lot plat, combined residential low moderate, and R7 zoning of 13.06 acres located at approximately 6950 South, 475 East, applicant Timothy Grubb. So with this being the final, we obviously don't have the public hearing because we've already had that. But do we have any additional comments coming in? Would you like to kind of talk about any changes that have been made between preliminary and final?
Yeah, I can give a brief background if you summary if you wish, and or if you want to just move forward with the action, that's your call.
Do you guys feel like you need a review?
The only thing that
I'm good.
I'm struggling with is remembering what some of the items were that were part of our preliminary. We asked them to take a look at, and I apologize that I simply just ran out of time to look at that. So if that's part of your review,
Yes.
that's the portion I'm interested in.
The two main items that were included in the recommendation is looking at the lot lines along the parcels, just to make sure the boundary line is correct, and with that boundary line agreement in place or in this application, we should have that covered. The other item was the site of the wells on the plat and what we needed to do from Hill Air Force Base. As we talked to our legal counsel, because these are a lease agreement between the property owner and Hill Air Force Base, we can't really require them to provide any other documentation for that as a city, but we did require them to locate those on the plat for the future development, because we are aware of that. Otherwise, if we didn't know that they existed, they wouldn't have that requirement necessarily, because it is a lease agreement on the property. So that's kind of how we handled that.
Are those the items that are designated with the private sewer easement?
No, it's the Hill Air Force Base. It's HAFB Mon well, the monitoring well. Lot 20,
Right there. Okay, thank you.
and then lot.
Because there was only 2 lots that had
Yeah.
the.
I think it was 5.
Lot 1 and lot 20.
Yeah, lot 1 and lot 20.
One.
And the location of those wells isn't in such an area that wouldn't allow access for monitoring and things like that.
Right, those lease agreements require them to have access to the property, detail what they can and can't do with those wells, and so they're protected that way. I do want to note, as we have done a few final applications here in the last few months, and I know that all of them have been a little bit different in their own special way. So, and it can kind of get confusing. So I went through the code as far as our major and minor subdivision requirements for review. And that's in Title 11 of our code. Title 11, Chapter 3. I do want to note as what documents are required to be reviewed at what time, what approvals take place, and who's in charge of which approvals. I think those are really important questions that have come up from multiple places. So I just wanted to clarify. For the approvals, the Planning Commission's actions during the approval process, the Planning Commission shall, this is again in 11.3.1. The Planning Commission action, the Planning Commission shall act upon the preliminary plan with reasonable time after the filing thereof. The Planning Commission shall find that the preliminary plan complies with requirements of this title and that it is satisfied with the plan of the subdivision. It may recommend approval or recommend approval with conditions. If the Planning Commission finds the preliminary plan does not meet the requirements of the title, it shall not recommend approval of such plan. This is under the final plan portion of the code. Then it states City Council approval after receiving recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission, provided all requirements and or conditions set by the Planning Commission have been met. The final plat, and I think it's really important to distinguish the plat from the plan. The final plat shall be submitted to the City Council for their approval. The final plat bearing all official approvals as above required shall be deposited with the city recorder, who shall cause that the plat shall be recorded. And therefore it talks about recording the plat at that point. And so tonight we're just considering the plat. You with your preliminary action, you have approved the preliminary plan, the improvement plans. With that, the city staff just ensures that the final plan has those construction documents included and the final plat. So this is the land use subdivision decision. That's what goes forward from this process. It's important to note that the site plan process is outside of this development review process. It can occur with it, but is available to occur outside of the development review process as well, from the Planning Commission as the land use authority there.
I had a question, and it just had to do with, I know you, on the memo, it mentioned the finalizing the draft of the CCNRs. Will there be CCNRs in terms of the building, future plans, when the homeowners come? Because these are all going to be individually sold off. So will each individual homeowner or property owner?
They were submitted part of your packet.
Okay.
Yeah, the CCNRs were submitted with the preliminary plan. It's not in the packet, but it's been submitted and reviewed by staff. So, because tonight we're reviewing just the final plat that's going to the city council.
I just want to make sure they're all going to be held to the same design standards and whatnot. So, and if you've got it.
Yes.
Yeah, and
we have it.
they've been the same since preliminary. They haven't changed.
All right, with that information, does anybody have any additional questions? Commissioner Davis? I'll
No
start.
questions.
No questions?
So I just want to make a comment. It doesn't really have anything to do with this particular, but I've been asked by 2 residents in the last couple of months to explain my business relationship with Tim Grubb. I have no business relationship. There's some misconception that I work at Peterson Farms. It's my religious calling to organize Sunday services at the Peterson Farms Assisted Living. So there is no business dealing with Tim Grubb or his family or anything. So
On that same note, Tim Grubb has actually no ownership in.
exactly. So Tim was saying that he doesn't own that anyway. So I just wanted to make that clear so people didn't email me and say you have a conflict of interest there, because I don't. So, okay.
Sorry that you even had to say that. Okay, Commissioner Wilson? All right, I don't have any concerns, questions. Just go back to, I like that it's single family home. And I think it fits in really, really well with the surrounding neighborhoods. And I'm looking forward to seeing what future residents can build there. They got options.
So
So I will make is it a motion? Or
Yep.
ask for a motion. I'm gonna ask for a motion. I don't have any
So-
motions
So I move that we recommend to the city that the city council approve the Peterson Farms PUD final plat for Peterson Farms PUD, 13.06 acres located at approximately 6950 south, 475 east.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I do roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Davis?
Aye.
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 Okay, and Commissioner McFadden is absent, so has no vote. Okay, motion carries. All right. See, we're gonna get out of here. They had to leave by 8:30.
I'm
so you
impressed.
pack.
I'm
Okay,
impressed.
you're
My wife
happy.
will be happy.
All right, agenda item number 7.
Just one comment on that. I mean, I appreciate all of your time, but since our last meeting and today, your staff has spent a lot of hours. And you would not see, just looking at that, how much depth and detail has gone into that work since our last meeting, just to make everything.
Thank you.
Dot I, cross T.
I have a feeling that wasn't picked up by the microphones, but thank you for saying that.
Extremely, I mean, good to work, but also stressful. It's
He's frustrated with it.
We have a
I
great
love you, but I don't ever
relationship,
wanna
but
talk to you again.
It's been good. They,
He gets emails from us and has PTSD.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot that goes on. So just,
All right.
just they have your back.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna move on. Item number 7, which is action on final plat from commercial highway to residential moderate for Sophia's Haven subdivision 3 lot plat, residential moderate zoning of 1.41 acres located at approximately 1550 East South River Drive. Applicant Rob Edwards, who first of all, thank you very much for sticking through all of that previous discussion. We appreciate you being here. Is it appropriate, I guess, do you want to give another little summary? So this is the final.
I can do that.
plat?
I do want to note that there are 2 acreages that you see. And I know that that can be confusing, but I just want to note for everybody to recognize where those 2 acreages come from. We have a right-of-way located at 1550 next to this property that is not a dedicated right-of-way. So it has a parcel ID. We own it as a road, as a right-of-way, but it's not a dedicated right-of-way. So we've asked the developer to include it in the development to dedicate it as a right-of-way. So that's why you see the 2.02 and the 1.41. I just wanted to clarify that, just so you're aware. It's the dedication of the right-of-way that makes
Where is
those
that
differences.
referenced?
Right here, the one that you just read on here.
I don't know,
The
it said
1.41.
1.41. You're saying that's including,
So the 2.02 is including the right-of-way dedication. The 1.41 is the lot,
lot,
is the actual
or lots,
development.
the 3
So,
lots.
so I just wanted to clarify that for anybody watching, that's why there's the two different ones there.
And you're calling it a dedicated right away?
Yep, they're dedicating the right-of-way so it's our own right-of-way. It's just not dedicated to us as a right-of-way. It's a
What's the
lot,
difference on that?
But the city currently owns it.
but
The
we
city
own it.
owns it, it's being dedicated at the development.
Yeah, it's approximately 0.6 acres. So, but yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. I know that there's probably questions of like, Trevor's off his rocker again. But I really been really trying to dot the i's. There's also one other little discrepancy in this. I had put that this was approved at the April Planning Commission. It was approved at the February Planning Commission. So I do apologize. I'm getting a little better. There's only like a few things that we had to fix. So when it's a lot of things to juggle. This was a fun one to get ready for.
It's my fault, too. I really should.
I keep telling Kim I need her.
Watch those.
But I hope the format has helped. We've truly tried to hone down on the format to help guide your review of this, because I know that I understand that the review is taxing. So I get it. The major things with Sophia's Haven that need to be discussed is we were made aware after the preliminary review that there is a service line for the water that runs through the property. It's not designated on any of our maps. We weren't aware of it. But because we have a public works crew that has been here forever, which we're so grateful for, they said, there's a service line that goes through there. And it's galvanized, so let's not dig into
Where
it.
Does it go across?
It goes through, if you're looking at the plat, it goes through lot 3, I believe.
Okay.
We don't know exactly where it goes through. So right now we are currently potholing. Yeah, potholing. That sounds really not the right word, but it's
Not the
correct.
official word.
We were potholing trying to figure out where that line is currently. But it goes to the property next to City Hall, to the west of City Hall. So with our recommendation to the city council, we would recommend that you recommend approval with the addition of a easement for the water line once it's found. I know that's really weird. Located on lot 3. Just so we can have the easement notated, but we didn't want them to put an easement that on the plat until we know where the easement should go.
I had a question on that only because there was also the fiber optics, I believe,
Mhm.
that we didn't quite know where it was.
Yeah.
It was brought up through city public comment, wanting to make sure that there wasn't going to be any interruption because it seems like if that happens, South Weber goes dark. So have we been able to determine where that's located, make sure it's in a protected easement, all of that?
I wish Brandon was in here right at this moment, but
We're gonna go grab
Rob,
it.
you can come up.
Oh, yeah, sure. We've guaranteed no interruption for the telecommunications line. We know where it is. You can see where the pavement's been filled up.
Okay,
So we've identified where it's at. And they've agreed to move it into the designated easement that's been provided. So it's been cleared up.
okay, perfect. Because I know that was a big concern, making sure that that tower line service didn't get interrupted.
yeah, I know Brandon was on the fiber. I know that he had a lot of conversations about it, but
Apologize for leaving us, just trying to answer other questions. What was your question?
So it has to do with so we've already talked about the water line that was discovered that's now going to be put into a protective easement. You
Yes.
know, also the fiber optics, the telecommunications, that line that runs through lot 3, wanting to make sure that that was designated, protected, not going to be interrupted with construction.
Right, the idea or the request from Crown Castle, was a letter from them was, before the plat's recorded, we'll go out and find it. And either they will relocate it or they'll put an easement where it currently is. So that
Crown Castle, the provider.
Crown Castle is the, the cell phone,
Okay.
or the cell tower people.
Cell tower.
Right, so they requested that be found, and then the easement. I believe it's the intent of the developer, Rob, to relocate the fiber line. But it has to be one or the other. Either it gets relocated and then the easement's where it gets relocated, or they show the easement where it currently is. Either way, it's protected.
Okay, and that's probably a better question for you. Is that going to impede on potential development for placing a house on lot 3 at all? Okay. There's room, sufficient room.
They have a lease agreement with us, with landowners, where we have a document that controls all of our interactions, but we need to provide access for them for that. It just so happens that it might need to be moved at their expense, and they're fine with that. They've written that letter. So I think that's all cleared up.
That was my only lingering thought on that one. Commissioner Wilson, do you have anything? Are you thinking?
I'm just going through the notes. I apologize. I'm a bit of a disadvantage with this one just because I was not there for the February preliminary review. So, obviously gaining familiarity, and I definitely had a question about that review of the preliminary, if there was any outstanding items that we took from that need to be here. I didn't see any in the meeting minutes or.
no, and I don't believe there are any conditions that were placed on approval either.
No.
Just the fiber and the documents and the
And make
cross-access
sure they-
agreement.
The agreement,
Mhm,
that's
which-
what I remember.
Yeah, which we've addressed, the cross-access, oh, I hate that word, cross-access agreement has been fixed. They have a solution to that. The fiber was another one and other easements that needed to be there. And then just access to those rear properties, utilizing that easement to ensure that is still there, and that's been addressed.
So if I can understand that just a little bit more, you're saying that the fiber optic line was identified at preliminary?
We were made aware of the fiber optic line at preliminary. We had a public comment from a previous landowner letting us know that there was a fiber optic line that wasn't designated on any documents that we had.
And it's currently
And so-
not on the final.
Correct, but there's a lease agreement that is with them, and so that company they're responsible to make sure that an easement's recorded or the line is moved, because it's,
And that note is an improvement.
yeah, because it's a private utility,
Right, they've got to work it out.
No, I think just generally speaking, hearing that there's an outstanding item from preliminary to final that still hasn't been resolved. I mean, it's minuscule, I get it. But it's recommending approval of the final without seeing the progress towards identifying where that.
well, there's a
Flat.
resolution,
Just
and
making it a condition
it's
of the
just-
approval.
yeah.
Right.
Or recommendation
No,
for
I'm just
approval.
saying generally, like February. I just didn't know why we didn't see it on the
Right.
final. If the resolution is pending, that's one thing.
The resolution is that the private utility owner needs to either relocate the line or record an easement for their utility on the property. So that's the resolution for that.
Right, prior to the plat being recorded. So it'll be on the plat, but its exact location isn't known or shown at this point.
Okay.
And it's the same with the water service. The city potholed that yesterday to get a portion. There's another portion there. They're hoping that the other end of it to get tomorrow. We will give that location to the developer's engineer, who can then add it to the plat.
Quick question. On this one, would it be resolved prior to showing up on city council's agenda?
Yes, so what I read earlier from our city code is the planning commission can make a recommendation for the final plat to the city council with any conditions that need to be met prior to that plat being presented at the city council meeting. So those two things are those considerations that need to be.
That kind of satisfying.
It is, yeah, I had no issue with the way forward. It just seems like it was known in February and we don't have it on final. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of, is it really doable by the time it goes in front of city council?
So if you are wanting those shown before it goes to city council versus before it gets recorded, those are two different timeframes, and I guess it would be good for you to
So where's it
recommend it.
captured aside from the meeting minutes? Those two items, are we gonna put it on the plat that there are known easements or a future easement for a fiber line here?
No,
or-
it would be drawn on the plat before the plat gets recorded, once those locations are known. And if it's not in a location that works for the developer, then he has the option to agree to relocate that and then show it where it gets relocated to. But if you are feeling like you want to recommend to the city council that you think it's good for them to see where those end up before they see it, that's a little bit different than recommending that it be done prior to recording the plat, whereas staff will just make sure that that is addressed.
See, from somebody who's reviewing it as an appointed official, it's hard to say this plat's ready to go when we know that there's a fiber optic line out there. And granted, yes, we're not the final approval of this, but that seems like it would be something that the city council would like to see, where the location of that fiber optic line exists, the results of the potholing for the water line, et cetera.
Right, so if you feel that, then I would make your recommendation that way.
But knowing then too, that if it doesn't work for the development to go in, it's then on those utilities to relocate at their own expense. That's not an expense that will get passed on to the city, correct? And it's not an expense.
No, if it would be, the way that it would be is that those utilities are there, right? They're pre-existing, they're there. So they can continue to stay there and be protected by the easement through this process of approving the plat. Or if their location is not in a good location for what the developer wants to see, then he could work with the utility companies to get those relocated.
Are there any risks
To the city?
to the city?
No, not for that.
Commissioner Boatright
I'm good.
and Commissioner Davis? I forgot if I started with you.
I'm good. I think that to talk to Commissioner Walton's concerns, I don't share those concerns necessarily based on the conversation that was just had, only because I don't think there's necessarily any harm on not knowing exactly where those are. I think if the develop it they need to know where those are before they can do anything with the land anyway. So I think forcing them to come before us with them listed on the design here, I see that as a unnecessary delay. That's just seems like red tape that isn't necessary to put in the developer's way. It's already a requirement for them to figure that out before they are able to build anything on it anyway. We're okay with them building 3 single-family homes, so I don't have any concerns with this one at all. I think it's fine.
Did you get everything? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I did, though. You're good.
So, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just gonna, I like it's single family homes. It's fitting in with, again, the neighborhood, what's surrounding the property. Oh, I did have a quick question. The access for lot 3, is that off that not private right away, but
No, the primary access would be off of South Weaver
it
Drive.
is off South Weaver Drive?
Yes.
Yeah, UDOT has given their approval for that.
Okay, that was my
that
question.
access point.
And is it an access point that's already existing?
Yes.
So it's not new? Okay,
Right, so they will be removing, I think, there's 3 access points. They're removing 2 and keeping
and
1.
then keeping the one, is it the one that's the furthest to the west?
I think
No
it's-
direction.
It's actually.
I think it's the one in the
The
middle.
middle? Yeah, the middle one.
The middle one, okay.
Yeah,
Any concerns?
no.
All right, well then I think if there's no more discussion items on this one, I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of final plat of Sophia Haven subdivision.
Yeah.
Sophia's Haven and then the 3-lot plat. Okay, sorry. Probably a comma there that I will track. Anyway, so recommend approval of final plat for Sophia's Haven subdivision. Located approximately 1550 East South Weaver Drive, with the condition that all utilities, to include the water utility and fiber utility, be on the final plat for city council approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote, starting with Commissioner Boatright.
Can I ask a quick question? With the amendments that Commissioner Walton did, does that add more work to you before you come to the city council, or?
It would require them to take the time to locate those before they could go to city council versus they could go, if you didn't do that, then they could go to city council now and when they found those, they would have to find those before they record the plat.
We found the telecommunications line.
Okay,
We know where it's at. And we're gonna move it inside the easement. It just hasn't been identified
Okay.
on there, and it will be. The water line, I believe, as they said, they just awful when they did find it.
okay,
So we're just waiting to hear back from the city. That happened yesterday. And as soon as we get their word back from them, I'm assuming it'll be Monday, then we'll just have the engineer add it on to what's already here.
okay, thank you. I'm an aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Oh, you're aye. And I'm an aye as well. And Commissioner McFadden is absent.
I don't
So
think-
Gary did.
He didn't
It's an
vote.
implied aye.
You still need to say.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Walton. Okay, motion carries.
So can you restate the conditions?
Yeah, that the fiber optic line and the water utility line owned by the city be identified on the plat, the final plat, when it was proposed or presented to the city council.
Be recorded on the plat prior to,
It won't be recorded.
well, shown, sorry, referenced, identified.
Yes.
All right, so we're moving on to planning commission comments. If anybody has any comments, we'll start with Commissioner Davis. You hanging in there with us?
I don't have any this week, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Boatright?
I do. I recently watched the city council of, I think it was May 10th, when they were talking about the budget and pay increases. I was shocked when it was proposed that we get $150 a month. I don't even know what we get now. I think it's quarterly, 100 and it's already
Now monthly.
changed.
Well, now they've gone from quarterly to monthly.
Okay, but the 150 hasn't gone in yet.
Not until the next budget.
Okay, I just think that's ridiculous, honestly. I'm in this chair. Not in it for the money. I wanted to serve. The little stipend helps cover internet costs and stuff. I think it's unnecessary. I think the money could be used better elsewhere. I appreciate the notion that the council appreciates what we do, but I think is that triple? I'm not a math person. That's triple of what I got in Riverdale. I was getting about $50 a month in Riverdale when I was on the planning commission several years ago. Riverdale has money, a lot more money than we do. Not that bad, not yet. So I don't know if you want to take that back to the council. I think it's unnecessary. I won't weigh in on the council or mayor's thing. That's a totally different thing, but I just think for us, yeah, thank you. I was flabbergasted by that. So I'm done.
Commissioner Walton?
Nothing additional.
I just want to say, I echo what Commissioner Boatright was saying. I listened to that meeting. That was a very long meeting. And I just sat there and was like, nobody's on the planning commission for a paycheck. If you are, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So maybe we can donate a fund that we can put our increases into. Yeah, annual party for the city. I don't know.
Do we get that anyway?
Something fun. Put it towards Canyon Meadows Park. I'm kidding. There's other
Agreed.
parks that it would go to before Canyon Meadows. The only thing I wanted to bring up is I know that we are getting ready for Canyon Meadows Park to open up, I guess, in pickleball courts. And I know that there was a request that was put out there to the community and citizens for coming in and helping out. So I just wanted to throw that out there in terms of bring your shovels, bring, what was it? I think wheelbarrows and your gloves and a willing attitude to serve the community. And I don't remember what date it was or time. So if you want to make
This Saturday,
June 11th, so this Saturday. So if you don't have plans, do you know what time?
8 to noon,
8 to noon.
show up.
So right before it gets too hot. So that was all.
There's a lot of weeds that need to be removed just to make it look nice, so.
Are they pokey weeds or are they
Some-
easy to
Just-
pull, like?
Just bring your gloves.
Yeah, it's
mostly just grass and weeds on
Okay.
the side of the
So you need trimmers,
trimmers.
things like that, weed eaters?
Yeah,
Okay,
be great.
Wheelbarrows.
that was all.
Gary can probably tell the best.
Hey, Gary, what's in your backyard?
Exactly what they said.
Non-pokey weed.
Non-pokey weeds.
Some
Okay.
pokey, but not me.
All right, well, thank you. I think that's all comments. So is there anything else from staff, from Trevor, from Kim?
I just appreciate you guys being able to have calm discourse on very hard subjects. I know it's not easy, so I appreciate everything you guys do. So.
I hope people understand what we try to do. It's not easy being up here. Sometimes it's not, so. And if anybody wants to come, I think there's an opening,
You resigning?
unfortunately. No,
Oh.
not yet.
Oh.
You guys haven't driven me to resignation yet,
You mean next year?
next year.
Okay, I was
Let's
like,
start planning, like,
who's
right?
leaving?
It's never a bad time to start thinking about
Like,
it.
I've been thinking.
And if people aren't happy with what's going on, then you know what? You have plenty of opportunity to come in and public comment and tell us what you think. We'll take it all. I hope that's known, so. All right, then I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
A second?
Okay, all in favor?